Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome. It's time for a little Overreaction Monday right here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum, that is Anwar Richardson. We're brought to you by RogueShop.com. Check out the website. It is Texas's home for legal CBD, THC, and so much more. And we do have the promo code Orange Bloods up there. I need to check. I'll see if I can get this confirmed during the show. But as through like yesterday, they had mad discounts using the promo code Orange Bloods on Rogue Shop. So let me check with Richard. Keep listening. We'll keep you updated. But yeah, go check out the website. And they just are terrific partners with us here on Orange Bloods Live. Anwar wrote a column on Orange Bloods yesterday. And it was his Sunday 10 Thoughts. And it really explored.
Sunday Pulpit.
What did I say? I mixed our two things together. The Sunday Pulpit. Yes. I just morphed them together. Yeah. Would be a hell of a column, quite honestly. It was just a super pulpit.
It'd take a long time to read.
Oh, my God. Well, people wouldn't watch the show because they'd still be reading it. I wonder where the cutoff point for most people would be. Like, where do you get where you're like, wait, I'm only halfway through?
Exactly.
But Anwar, in his column, kind of went line by line, quarterback by quarterback through the 2026 season for the Longhorns. And Anwar, there's a lot to unpack in that because you can kind of get into the conversation of, and we did a little bit yesterday, right? It was like, well, who do you really give the edge to in a battle between Arch Manning and Julian Sayin? I think it's actually, I think it's interestingly enough, the two of us kind of came down on two separate things. Anwar pointed out, well, Arch is a much bigger threat as a runner. And I was like, yeah. And I think Julian's probably the more advanced passer at this stage. You merge those two things together, you got two really evenly close elite level quarterbacks, both of whom could be at the Heisman ceremony next December. So like there's that part. Mm-hmm. But Anwar, the part that is staying with me on a Monday, two things. One, this schedule is actually stacked. Mm-hmm. If the Aguilar kid from Tennessee gets his waiver,
yeah,
1 out of every 2 games on this schedule is a game against a quarterback at least as good as Marcel Reed.
Yes.
We draw a line and say Marcel Reed might be the 6th best quarterback on the schedule, and he's more than capable. That guy was, at times, in November, there was some thought he might even be a fringe Heisman candidate, and obviously that didn't come to fruition, but he was playing really well, and the Aggies were in a position to do big things, and he was at the forefront of that. And as I look at this schedule, I'm like, and he's number 6, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe? And that doesn't even take into account a guy like Austin Simmons or some of the other guys. Texas plays a 2026 schedule that on paper, from a quarterback position, the opponents look completely different than they did a year ago. Where coming into the year, we thought there's 3 games with quarterbacks that everybody needs to worry about, really. Lagway, Sayin, Mateer.
Yeah.
The schedule changed a little bit as the years went on, and some of those guys were better than we thought, and some weren't. Like Lagway ends up giving the performance of his season against Texas, but he wasn't a good player last year. This year, it feels like the quarterback thing is deep, and it really enforces the point that Arch Manning has to be Arch freaking Manning all season long, because I don't know how many weeks the Longhorns will be able to successfully navigate against good competition if he's not. The quarterback play they're taking on is just too good next year.
Yeah, Catch. I mean, things have changed with the, last week, Trinidad, Chambliss, you think, okay, well, he's going to be gone potentially. And then the NCAA, as you and I always joke, loses another one. They just lose another one in court. And then you and I are like, oh, they're going to lose to Aguilar. Like, come on. Like, we know that more than likely that's going to happen. And you're talking about 2 guys who threw for over 3,000 yards, 3,500 yards. Like, good quarterbacks, Catch. Good quarterbacks on good teams. And it is, if all things are equal, we all know it's the quarterback that's going to usually be the determining factor, in some of these games. And, we can't have an Arch that starts slow this year. Like you don't have that margin of error at all, especially with 9 conference games. Like the margin of error is slim. And you're right. When you look at Julian saying, if you get Aguilar back, if you get, Trinidad is already back as well. And then you got Sam Levitt going to LSU. And we know he'll probably be better at LSU with more weapons than he was at Arizona State. He was hurt a little bit more last year. But, that's just 4 off the top of my head. And to your point, that's before we even Marcel Reed. I mean, he might be better, than he was last year. The turnovers were kind of an issue with him.
I think from week to week, the order could be like arranged any number of ways because of the quality of the guys in that top 6.
Yes. And that's, and then you put Mateer down there, right? Who, Texas has had their way with him last year. I mean, obviously he threw 3 interceptions in that game, but, he's not a scrub. I mean, he'll at the least show up, for you. And people say the hand injury had something to do with the performance. I don't buy it, but yeah, Arch definitely will have to be on his A game during the gauntlet of the season. I don't know if a C game gets Texas a win in these games that we're talking about. I don't think a C game helps them beat Missouri. Catch? Like, if we just keep it in a buck, like, I don't think a C game gets you past them. And I think, from top to bottom, I think they're a better team. But, even there, they're going to come, like you said, with an Austin Simmons there. So Arch definitely has to be the Arch that we saw towards the end of last season has to be that guy that we see throughout most of this season. Like that, there's just it's incredibly important that he gets the most out of all these weapons around him. Even if the O-line isn't as great, it's incredibly important that Arch though carries his team, because if not, you throwing balls in the dirt to Cam Coleman or sailing things and all those kind of things that then the expectations that you have for this year will eventually kind of dwindle. So yes, his A game has to be there.
One of the things that you and I got right about last year was that 25 really was a season to take advantage. So if somebody this year, look, you can look at Texas with Manning, you look at Ohio State with Julian Sain, you look at Oregon with Dante Moore, number of guys come back. And with the year of experience that all of those guys have under their belt. I mean, the Ole Miss kid you can throw into that group as well, right? Like, he's a heck of a player, man. Like, he's really good. There's a world out there where if the version of the 2026 version plays in 2025, maybe they're just meeting Indiana in the national championship game. That if Indiana emerged as this kind of weird, immovable force, but there really wasn't anybody else that was cooking with grease at quarterback at the beginning of the season all the way through the season. It really had that guy. It was the year if you had the right if Texas in 2026 is that team in 2025, I think Texas wins the national championship. At least the Indiana and Texas could, I think, been a really good matchup. It's fascinating now that you are your team when you are your team, and I feel like whether it's Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, one of these schools, actually 2 of these schools, are going to feel like when the season's over with, they've missed an opportunity. That's with everybody else outside of college football. Those teams will feel like, man, when can we absolutely 100% count on having as good a quarterback play as we're expecting to have in the final season of all 3 of these players? And it means that Arch just got to be the player that he wasn't ready to be a year ago. I think, ironically, him playing in the bowl game, in a game that I wasn't sure I really wanted him to play because of the dangers of what's this game really mean? This kid gets hurt now. And look, he did have surgery. It wasn't like he wasn't like he didn't need some time already to heal. But that bowl game gave us a version of Arch that felt superstarish. Whereas he had just been playing really well for the most part in the last 4 or 5 games of the season. They're going to need the best version of Arch I'm more likely to give him the benefit of the doubt that thinks that most weeks he's going to be able to be that guy. But he's going to have to wear a cape. That offense is going to have to be really good. They've got a bunch of parts around him now. I think this team has a chance to be the sexiest team in college football on the offensive side of the ball because of the weapons and the names and everything that they have. It's just going to be tough sledding. And look, CDC, it's not too late. It's not. It's not. Watch this show. Listen to what we're talking about. Even if you took Ohio State and Julian Sayin off the schedule, you still play 5 quarterbacks that can beat you. And that's without us even knowing who else develops, who else is good. The Austin Simmons kid, he could end up being really good. He may be the guy we'll sleep on all season long, that by the time that game happens, he might actually be really good. He could be. The expectations for him previous to last season wasn't that he was going to suck. Like, he was expected to be a star under Lane Kiffin. So there's a lot of things to watch. I can't wait, man. We're 7.5 months away from the start of the 2026 season. I genuinely are more not optimistic. There's more of an energy and a bounce. 7.5 months away. Maybe it's because the portal just ended. But we're going to get to see whatever the hell the Arch Manning experience. It's the bill is due, my man. And whatever this thing is going to be, we are going to find out on a massive platform this year. Yeah. And Sark's got to be great. Arch has got to be great, because if they're not, this schedule will eat them up. And so there's like no other options. It's time for both of those guys to be that guy. I think Arch is ready.
Let me ask you this, Catch. Of the schedule, you think if we had to go today, it's the way too early predictions, right? 2 of those guys are in New York at the end of the season?
Ooh, good question.
I mean, you think Sayin might be in New York in December?
Yes.
Chambliss?
Sayin had an amazing season. It only is, if they win the Big Ten championship, he's in New York.
Yes.
They lost. He didn't get the invite. There was a lot on the line in that Big Ten championship game, and but like, this guy was a national top 10 player all season long. I don't know how good Ole Miss is going to be, but Chambliss has absolutely the ability to get there.
What about Levitt?
I think Levitt's had, I think the best weapon he'll work with was the one he had at Arizona State with Jordan Tyson. I don't know that anybody at LSU will be better than that, but they'll have more guys. And I think, that guy was he was just a puppy in 2024 when he helped lead Arizona. I mean, he's a playoff quarterback. Like, I don't think he's awesome, but he is a legit playoff quarterback. And, he more than held his own when Arizona State played Texas in the quarterfinals 2 seasons ago. Now, Arizona State ended up having a little bit of the Clemson-Penn State thing, where you thought 2024 would serve as a bigger springboard for potentially bigger things, and it didn't quite go that way. But Levitt was hurt and a baby, really a young player still, whereas the other quarterbacks on those other teams were seniors. And I think there's a fair chance that I think Levitt's the 4th best quarterback on the schedule going into the season. But you could talk me into him being number 2 by the time the season's over, for sure.
Yeah. So we're looking at
Baton Rouge.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not even talking about Jeremiah Smith, right? But just for fun, as far as Heisman stuff is concerned. But we're looking at least 2 probably today that we would say, like, all right, these guys are. Someone's saying that Sayin was in New York last year, by the way.
Was he? Okay. I didn't watch the Heisman ceremony. You have to forgive me. I stopped caring.
yeah, I'm looking here. He was a finalist.
So what place did he come in?
I gotta look at the final voting. Hold on. Let's see.
I mean, I literally didn't watch it. I know Mendoza won. What else is needed to be known?
So
who was the other finalist?
Hold on. He finished 4th.
Okay.
So
just
he finished
fourth out of the finalists.
He finished fourth in the voting. Jeremiah Love finished third. Pavia was second.
That's right. I knew Pavia was in there. Boy,
Yeah,
last season was not a good season in college football.
God, yeah. Well,
because Diego Pavia is not a better player than Arch Manning. He's just not. Now, that's not to say that he wasn't better than Manning. But like when those two guys played each other, like he got played off the field. I don't know. Like I'm not saying Arch didn't deserve to be in New York, but Diego Pavia was not the second best player in America last year. I don't even know if he was the best player on his team. He certainly wouldn't have been the best player on the Texas team.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have started over Arch. He's not better than Arch. And I thought, I don't know.
Chambliss finished 8th in the voting as well, Catch.
And Chambliss scares the hell out of me, to be completely honest. Like when that guy's at his best, I don't think to myself, oh, well, he's still not good enough against NFL level athletes. That was always my thing with Pavia, is that against the Alabamas and the Texases of the world, and I know they beat Alabama 2 years ago, but against the elite of the elite from a talent wise, it did feel like he was the kind of dude that was looking to get a 19th year in college football.
Yeah.
Because he has nowhere else to go. He's literally the Richard Gere from An Officer and a Gentleman of college football. If not Vanderbilt, do you want me to do it or not? Do you even know the reference, the pop culture reference that I made?
No, go for it.
I got nowhere else to go. I got nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
You never seen An Officer and a Gentleman?
I mean, like years ago.
I mean, it's kind of a classic. Louis Gossett got the Oscar that year.
I mean, we're talking about what, 85 or something?
No, it's like 80. It's like 81.
I mean, come on. I'm not going to get a movie reference from like that many years ago, unless it's like Goonies or something.
I know it's a short 45 years. The I've got nowhere else to go is it's a cinematic piece of history is all I'm saying. That was Diego Pavia. He had nowhere else to go. And look, there are some dudes like that now, but I'm just telling you, man, like I read your article and I got less caught up in, man, is he really better than saying right now? Or how would you rank him in Chambliss? Like there's a couple of these where there's some honest to goodness conversations. Cause I think if you take that bowl game out and you just went on the 12 games that we've seen, I think you have to give the edge to Chambliss at that point. You think about two of the last couple of games of the season that we saw were Georgia and Texas A&M. Arch wasn't horrible against A&M, but he wasn't really a standout from that night either. He was good. He was solid. But but that bowl game was very Vince Young-ish 2004 Rose Bowl it was hard not to think, where's this guy been all season? That guy against Michigan was just sensational on a lot of different levels, not just with his legs either. Some of the balls he threw, some of the best balls were dropped. And that is the other component of Arch this year that I'm most excited to see what he does with a receiving core that knows what it wants to do with Ryan Wingo. They really figured that out late. I don't know why do you think it took them so long?
I think it took. There's a couple of different factors. I think one, offensive line play, the start was not good. Then, I think Arch was too shaky to begin with. And then, so I don't think they was able to get into a rhythm. And I think it took a while for Sark to figure out this is what this guy does best. And
why do you think that is though? Like it seems, coaching's hard.
Yeah. But
sometimes it's not hard to look at a guy and go, oh, he's really good. They should just get him the ball.
Yeah.
I don't let Ryan Wingo be Ryan Wingo. I do feel like there was a little bit of like trying to make him Matthew Golden. Yeah. I don't know. It just, and you're not wrong, right? We know that the Arch that Ohio State game, Texas makes the playoffs and maybe wins the national championship, and Arch's entire season is different if they don't open that game up in Columbus. It is one of those like it's just a sliding glass door moment where he emerged from that game broken, and it took a month for him to completely put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Who knows what it looks like if that game is the second or third game on the schedule instead of the first game on the schedule. But
or not on the schedule.
Or not on the schedule. But the thing with Wingo is at the end of the year, it turned into a joke what the first play of the game was going to be.
Yeah.
But that's what we talked about early in the season. That should have been the first play of the game in Columbus. That the first throws should have been one of those little pick and pop end arounds where it's more of a run play than anything else. But like you look up and your quarterback's 2 for 2. Now, maybe he didn't get a first down. Maybe he's 2 for 2 for 4 yards, but he's completed passes. Yet it is not his fault that whatever didn't happen. And you're just, I don't know. I feel like Arch, it's not an accident. And the two things go hand in hand, but Arch starts to turn the page at the moment they just give him something that's easy. It got to be towards the end of the season where he and Ryan Wingo's thing was pretty easy. Wasn't a whole lot of rocket science behind it. Didn't need to be a great route runner. Arch didn't necessarily have to be great at getting him the ball and throwing it into a perfect spot, even though we know he's capable of doing that. Now to me, he's found money on offense. Whenever they want to go to Ryan Wingo, there's something there to be had. Yeah. The idea that now they've got Cam Coleman to put pressure on teams, somebody on that Texas offense between Ryan Wingo and Cam Coleman is getting some space. They're doing something. You can't double team Cam Coleman and then tell me you've got Ryan Wingo moving all over the field completely covered. Something's got to be open, and this is what the Texas offense missed a year ago. If we're going to point to the schedule and say, are they ready? Is Arch ready for this? It really, really, really helps that they're not going to be a little noodle offense next year from a talent standpoint. No offense to Parker Livingston. He's been replaced by Cam Coleman. No offense to Trey Wisner, but Hollywood Smothers and Raleigh Brown are just, I said it right? Raleigh?
Yeah, you said Raleigh, yeah.
By God, I'm going to get one name right this season. Those guys are just different levels of playmakers. It's not to say that none of those guys are not good quality players. Texas has just juiced it up a little bit, and they get a Ryan Wingo back that will be a much more confident player than they were able to work with for most of last season. Like I said, man, no pressure, but that offense looks set up to do monstrous things. And then it's a matter of keeping Arch upright, and it's a matter of Sark getting the most out of these guys. A year ago, I think you could point to the talent and go, they made some bad personnel decisions, and I think that impacted Sark's ability to put out a first-class offense. That cannot and will not be an excuse this year. These are, and I think as we get closer to the season onward, the rhetoric nationally about this Texas offense will hit as high a stages as it did last year, undeservedly, probably, right? We now know it shouldn't have been happening.
Correct.
This year it's going to happen, and I think, what will emerge is we'll get to the season and there will be a lot of pressure on these guys to perform. I do wonder if Sark may be the guy of that group that I'm most curious about, because I think it's the biggest put up or shut up season of his career. And I do wonder, you and I privately had some conversations about this on War. I don't know there are just whispers, and I don't even want to get into the whispers, but what I want to talk about specifically is 2027 looks like a massive rebuild year. It just does, especially on the offensive side of the ball. My God, it's every position except maybe tight end. Who knows? It does feel like this 4-year cycle is the end of something. That playoffs in 2023, playoffs in 2024, they thought they everything about the pressure associated with last season was with the brain on a national championship. That they came so close doesn't mean it wasn't an incredibly pressurized season with incredibly high expectations. Then there's this season. And I do kind of feel like everybody's going to look at 2027 a little bit like all year long, because we won't know until the portal really what the hell Texas is even going to remotely look like. So all you can do is kind of go, I don't know about 2027. Who knows? Who knows? You know you're going to be breaking in a new quarterback and a new offensive line. Like at a minimum. So 2026 is the end of a particular runway. And I think everybody's going to feel that. I think Colin Simmons will feel it. It's his last year. I think this coaching staff will sense it'll suck to not have a massively successful season, knowing that we might be 24 months away from being able to have a chance to really go at it again. And so I'm fascinated by how everybody handles the magnitude of what this season represents.
You know, I have a bunch of takes on that one. 2026 seems like it's all or nothing kind of season. That doesn't mean a season where people are getting fired, Sark high.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about anything crazy like that, but
neither was I. Just in case
I didn't think it that way either. But when you look at the portal additions, right, and you see what that was. Okay, we are going to be as strong in every position as absolutely possible. We just found out what Will Muschamp earned, on Friday. You're paying this dude nearly $3 million a year, 8.5 guaranteed. That's his base, Catch. That's his base. That's before any incentives kick in, which I think that can take it up to about 17-ish or so. I think if he meets every single incentive, right, which is hard, but so you went out and you did that, right? Your position coaches, right? We saw you gave Kyle Flood a raise, right? Wasn't a major raise. It wasn't a major raise.
It's an unintentional raise.
It was a raise,
but it's unintentional.
You could have gave everybody a raise.
No, I mean technically they could not have kept him on the staff without giving him a raise, right?
I mean,
because the language in his contract said. Yeah. The next year had to be at the highest point of his last deal.
He got a raise. Okay.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just
saying. Okay. So, Nancy got a raise. He's good. So, and I don't know what his contract looked like.
I have no idea why that happened. The defensive coordinator had to be fired. Who was doing such a good job that the defensive coordinator didn't get fired?
Oh, that's what PK is probably like. What the hell? I don't know. Yeah. So, but now
it's nice to be friends with Steve. I'll let Sark. I can keep secrets. Like I can keep my mouth shut. And I don't need babysitting either. Like some of these dudes need your time all the time. I'm here when you need me. I'll be your friend. And if you want to put me on staff, I will ride or die for you too. Because those dudes get taken care of.
Sark takes care of his guys.
He takes.
There's not a coach.
Up all the rest of us that have partners, and it's like, if any of my friends want to say, "Hey Jeff, how come you don't love me as much as Steve Sarkisian loves his friends?" I don't have a great answer. You aren't as good of friends to me apparently as they are to him.
None of those guys can say that Sark ain't loyal to them.
The two guys that got raises are the two guys in his inner circle.
It helps. Now, Chris Jackson did get re-signed. But he
didn't get a raise, did he? Or did he?
I don't think so. But no, all that being said, Catch, there's two things here. 2026 is the year. And I just say something too. And I know no one's going to want to hear it. And it might annoy some people, but I'll be Catch for a moment. I don't know if Sark views Texas as his forever home. I don't know that. I don't know if he's ever verbalized that this is, like, for instance, we know Kirby Smart's at Georgia for as long as he probably wants to be. And Kirby Smart ain't going nowhere, right? Dabo ain't going nowhere as relates to Clemson, right? We know Joey McGuire. He ain't going to go anywhere. He's going to be there forever as long as they want him there.
Oh, man, I could see Joey McGuire taking an A&M if it would take that.
It would
And
take.
it may be that never becomes available to
Yeah.
Joey McGuire. But let Texas Tech make the playoffs again. And let A&M miss or something. I don't know. It's not, but I feel you.
I just don't know. I don't know. Like when I came here, I was in the NFL for years. You probably didn't know for sure that I would want to hang around Orange Bloods for 10, 12 years, something like that. You may have said, okay, maybe he does this for a couple of years and he just decides like, I don't like this. I want to go back. Right. And it took probably the second contract for you to realize like, oh, okay. He's probably going to be here, a college guy. He's cool with that. Right. I don't know if Sark views Texas, and I'm saying I don't know this because he's never communicated that. I know he's communicated like he doesn't like the whispers. He didn't like the whispers that came out at least the second go around last year. I don't know if Texas goes and wins a natty in 2026. Is Sark's like, we're going to run it back? Or is it Sark saying, you know what, I finally accomplished what I wanted to accomplish there. I think I got a new challenge. I don't know. I don't know that. But but it puts for me not taking anything 2026 for granted, where it has to be an all chips in thing, because I don't know what it looks like for anybody in 2027. And can I also now give you some of the elephants in the room here as relates to 2026. Of these back and in these quarterbacks, they're facing a lot of these tough ones on the road. At Tennessee, at Ole Miss, at Missouri, at LSU, at Texas A&M. Right now, granted, Texas just seems to find a way to beat A&M every year, so you got to hope for that, right? But last year, 3 losses. At Ohio State, at Florida, at Georgia, didn't play well at Kentucky, didn't necessarily play that well at Mississippi State. Last year, this team going on the road, that was not a good thing. That was not a good thing. And now you're facing better QBs, and we're going to get to the second elephant in the room to tie it all back in. There's 2 more I got. Your topic, Sark in the red zone, how that has to get better, and Sark against top 25 teams. And it gets, the numbers get lower and lower when you go top 20, top 25, top 10, top 5. Like the record gets less and less, and the losses happen. So when we start talking about this thing and this season and Arch, tying that back into Arch, there are areas that this team will have to be better in. Being on the road, on the red zone, against top 25 opponents, right? All these things have to happen, and Arch has to be the catalyst to it. So those are some elephants in the room that we don't talk about as much, but definitely are worth discussing.
What was Texas's best road performance last year? They were 2-3 on the road. The 2 wins were overtime games against Kentucky and Mississippi State. If you'll remember, we had this conversation during the season. It was Ohio State. It was the best they played on the road was a loss in Columbus where the offense was terrible. But it wasn't any better in Lexington. And the defense was trash against Mississippi State. So they did not play a complete game on the road last season, and they never came close to it. There was always some shit that was like, not the engine light was on. Not, oh, man, I've been going 200 miles and the engine light won't turn off. I guess I need to find out what's going on there. No! Blowouts on the highway. By the way, I didn't even tell you the day I was on the highway. Just life like that can be taken away. This car in front of me, it's about 15 feet in front of me on the far left lane, hops a curb on the access road going about 60. His car jumps like off into the air, lands in like in between the two lanes, like in between two lanes, but a little bit in front of me, I'm slowing down. It spins out. Like, had I been there, it would have hit me and slammed me into something. And in the end, I was just far enough behind that I was able to watch it and avoid it. Crazy though, but like,
yeah, that is crazy though. That is wild. And by the way, I was wrong. Ole Miss is here.
Yes, but it doesn't change the point that we're making, which is they weren't ever good. They weren't good once on the road last season. No. To the extent that if you want a cape for Kentucky or Mississippi State as the best performance that the team gave on the road last year, I'm okay with that. Yeah. There's just an even greater implication of needing to go to overtime with both of those two teams. All of those road games, they have to play better than they did a year ago.
Yeah.
I'm less worried about the ranked team thing as a thing, but only because there are other things that you just listed. That is the quarterback thing. That's a big deal. I think the not playing on the road thing is a really big deal. And it's probably a massive deal when we're talking about playing on the road against quality ranked teams. That is where now you're combining, and some of those teams will have quarterbacks, and now you've just made a super baby out of problems. Like, it's like, well, what happens when you play a team where it's that, and that all mixed together at once? It might be an L. Like, it might just be as simple as that. I don't know. It feels like this team is one where I can see it playing its best football at the end of the season. It's what we said about this year's team, and it proved to be true. This team ends up winning, 5 of their last 6 games. They only lose the Georgia game, but after they righted the ship, they beat a top 10 Oklahoma. They beat a top 10 A&M. They beat a top 15 Vanderbilt. Like, this was a season that never quite got off the ground, but it wasn't that far away either. I think the Ohio State game is everything. They have to, and that's almost why I hate that game being on this schedule as much as anything. You don't need to be putting yourself into a position where your November and December feel under threat in week 2 of the season. Not anymore. Not anymore. It is a different age in college football. The committee told us what they care about. Texas doesn't have to play. They barely have to play Division I teams. It could be San Jose State, San Felipe State, San Luis Obispo State. They can play anybody they want to. If they lose two or fewer games in SEC play, they're going to be in the playoffs. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Sark.
It puts it because how much? Let me ask you this: how much if it look, the solution is you have to win the game, right? So we understand that, right? But if you do lose it, then Catch, how much pressure does that put on Arch and the rest of the team, knowing, man, your margin of error is you only got one more. That's it.
You want my hot take on this?
What?
The players won't feel it right away. The fan base will not handle it well, and that'll be the problem. Like, we won't be able to stop the anxiety attacks. We won't be able – there's a world out there where you lose to Ohio State at home 34-33, and the whole country's talking about how big of a game it is, and you're like, okay, well, good. We're good. We're good. We can even lose another game. We'll be all right. And I think the players will immediately move on to the next game. The players are always dumb. They don't ever really – they probably thought all the way to Selection Sunday they had a chance.
Yeah.
They probably did. There probably was a level of disappointment where they thought, oh, I thought push comes to shove, we did enough. I think they thought they did enough against A&M. I think that this city, having gone through what they did a year ago and not making it and spending months talking about it, there's no matter what happens in that Ohio State game from an aesthetically pleasing standpoint, if you don't win it, the talk starts immediately. Uh-oh. We have all these road games coming up, and you can only lose one, and we're not even including Oklahoma or Ole Miss at home or any of these other things, and it gets to be the players, I think, will be okay until the anxiety of the fan base makes it so that the players can't avoid it.
Correct.
And that is a thing that I'm being vocally worried. I'm letting Texas fans know y'all need to be prepared. Y'all matter this year. And I think the fan base if this team struggles once, the fan base can't be part of the reason why they don't recover. So I do give Sark credit. He kept this team battling all season long. I don't think it felt the stakes of the season the way that they needed to, or they would have never have lost to Florida. They went into Florida like a team that wasn't playing for anything. This year, every game's going to feel life or death because they didn't make the playoffs last year. You lose in Florida in part because all those players are immature enough to think we can go down to Gainesville against this shitty Florida team and just show up and win. They won't feel that way this year. They'll be older. They'll be more responsible. They'll be more mature. It doesn't make the task any less difficult. It just means what they won't do is show up and go through the motions. And that's kind of on the coaches too. You know, that was on their watch. It's like the Arkansas game from 2021. That Sark didn't see that coming a mile away. That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. If in the middle of the game your team's being destroyed and you're shocked, that makes you part of the problem. And one of the things that Sark's going to have to do a better job this year than he did last year, he's just got to be his finger on the pulse of this team. And I'll go all the way back to Wingo. Why did it take half the season for one of the great offensive minds in college football to figure out, hey, you know the dude that doesn't have natural receiving skills and isn't ready to play in the NFL as a technical receiver? Maybe we shouldn't ask him to be a technical receiver. How about this? We just give him the ball however we can, the easiest way we can, see if he can make some stuff happen. Why did it take 7-8 weeks for that to materialize? I think the answer is really simple. I don't think it's a massive indictment. It just can't happen this year. Sark didn't have his finger on the pulse of the team all the way. Not all the way. And, you know, they finished 12th in the country and won 10 games. So that's what it looks like when he's off. Give Sark some grace. Like, that is a hell of a bad season. Shaka Smart would love to have that kind of season right now at Marquette. He's not. Chris Beard, remember him, would like to have that kind of season at Ole Miss right now. He's not. Like, winning is hard. And I don't think people give Sark enough credit. And I don't include myself in this because I'm literally bringing up the point now. What they did, what he does is hard. But to win the national championship, you have to be elite of the elite of the elite. You can't be the 5th best. You can't be the 10th best. Your team can't be the best. And as a head coach, you're puttering along at a B+ level. You have to match that. It's the one thing everybody agrees with Indiana this year. Nobody feels like, well, you know, the head coach was just along for the ride. No, he met them every step of the way. It felt like they were in unison. It didn't feel that way with Texas last year. It's not a fireable offense. I think Sark has had his finger on the pulse of his teams much better in just the previous 2 years alone. But he's man. Like, it's hard work. Anwar next week might write a column, and I'll show up on Monday and be like, I don't know, Anwar, your column didn't inspire me to have a topic for Monday. It goes that way sometimes. Yeah. The problem is, on everything about Anwar's career is not on the line next Sunday. Everything about 2026 does have that level of gravity, and it's impossible to know how Sark will meet it. But if he does, if Sark's ready for that moment, then I think this team, the sky is the limit. I think the scary thing is, though, I think this year will feel like the end of something. Like in Michigan, obviously it ends with Harbaugh leaving. But that 2024 season, they weren't terrible. But everybody just kind of knew that was going to be a rebuilding year. Just was. And Texas caught them in their rebuilding year, as opposed to, you know, they played that game at Ann Arbor 1 year earlier. Texas doesn't make the playoffs. Just, you know, that's one. They're not beating Michigan in Ann Arbor in 2023. That would have been problematic. Sometimes just the timing of all this. It's why Del Conte, dude, when this season is over with, we can pat Chris Del Conte on the back and be like, yo, you know who helped Texas get to the playoffs this year? Del Conte. 10-2 team snuck into the playoffs, won a national championship. They took that Ohio State game off, and it was such shrewd decision-making in retrospect. They will not say that.
Not if the opposite occurs. If the opposite occurs,
It'll be on his tombstone.
All the goodwill that he's built up for all it is what makes it such a frustrating conversation, because we know Chris is a smart man. You can look how he's, you look at this athletic department, you look at the facilities that he's been able to build out here, the fundraising that he's been able to do, getting Texas into the SEC, right? And getting out of the Big 12. And
they have a perfect athletic director for who they want to be.
He is amazing. You would give him probably an A+ for things. He's even come back and said, you know what? Even some of those things that have happened in the past, like when you think about where our society was and the world was, and he's like, I get it now, right? Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, man, this guy is clicking. And this is just one thing that is so obvious to everybody, so obvious that programs across the country are like, oh, Alabama and Ohio State are about to get canceled, Catch. They're like, yo, we ain't doing this, man. They're about to cancel that game. They're like, man, the risk is not worth the reward.
It's not an act of cowardice. It's an act of using your head. Look, when Anwar, if today it's a holiday, so it's a little different, but there's a press conference tomorrow at UT at 9 a.m. and Anwar's going to drive into Austin, rush hour morning traffic. He's not going to go the most difficult way possible on purpose if he doesn't have to. If he doesn't have to, you know what? All things being equal, I'll go the route that I know is easier and better and will take 30 minutes off my drive. No. 35, Anwar. Make your way to 35. That's how real men do it. Okay.
It'd be like, instead of me taking 45 and then like trying to round up to like, to the interstate and then try to go around the airport, the Austin airport, and come on in. You're like, man, it is the thing. And the thing is, Catch, when you go to a 9-game SEC schedule, you already know, like, okay,
that's your excuse, though. You can just say, when we made that, we didn't know we were doing this. We can't do both at the same time. Who's going to argue with him?
Nobody.
Everybody's going to understand. They're going to say it's weak. They will. People, for a day, people are going to go, well, that sucks. But they're also going to go, have you seen their schedule?
Yes. And the question is, and this is the hill that people are dying on, I want to play that game. I want to play against Ohio State. I want to play. But you know what? Nobody was saying at the end of last season, Catch. Ain't nobody was saying, yo, we're 9-3, we're not in the playoffs. But guess what? I am so happy we played Ohio State. Like no one was saying at the end of last season.
Indiana might have won the Natty, Anwar, but did they test themselves in non-conference or not? Because if they didn't, I don't want to really hear about their undefeated and winning all their games in the playoffs.
All that matters is that we played tough teams. That's all that matters. And it's like everybody else is like, no, you know what matters? Playing the tough teams in the playoffs, Catch. That's what matters. Playing the tough teams in the playoffs, because we just went through the schedule, what Arch has to face. And how many of these teams they're facing probably going to be ranked at some point. How many games are going to probably be night games? LSU is probably going to be a night game. Is going to be a night game. You're probably going to get Tennessee as a night game, more than likely. That'll be early in the year.
You know what? Can I just sum me up real quick? If I was a college head coach, I'd probably be a cheater. Like, however ways. I mean, I just would.
Well, you'd be like 50% of coaches. So go ahead.
I'm never mad at Spygate. I'm never mad at what Harbaugh did at Michigan. Like, I'm just not. If somebody handed me a playbook from the other school, I'm not clutching my pearls and telling myself that if I win the game in November, that somehow it means less or somehow no. And you know what? They don't pay you on shoulda, coulda, wouldas either. They pay you on what you do. And so I would probably live in the gray. And I would probably not like it if Jim Harbaugh took photos of my team from the stands. But I also would probably go, Harbaugh's a little shiesty son of a bitch. That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
I would be like, I'm the ultimate don't hate the player, hate the game kind of a guy, right? This is not cheating. That's not what this is. In a world of strategy games, and that is what is like popularized. That is every game now is world building and strategy and thinking about a game from 30,000 feet up. That's how I view this navigating this season. You got a couple of losses to play with. You got to manage the schedule. You need to be healthy. You need to eliminate as many dangerous things as you can that you're able to. Like it's just as simple as that. And I'm a little surprised that Del Conte. Now look, I honestly, if it was just contractual, if Del Conte I don't even know what the problem would be with, look guys, we can't cancel. Why can't you cancel? One of the conditions of us coming to the SEC when we did the way that we did, we had to play this Michigan game when we played these games are locked in, and we tried, but like our TV partners said, they will take us to court. Okay. But just like, don't tell us I really want a piece of Ohio State.
That really bothers you. That bothers you.
You know who's saying that right now? Oklahoma about Texas.
Mm. Yeah.
When you get your ass kicked by somebody, you and look, I'm okay with the obsession with Georgia and Ohio State because it's like the thought is you have to beat those teams to win the national championship, but beating Ohio State in September accomplishes nothing.
Yeah.
If Texas is 12-0 in the regular season, 13-0 and win the SEC, and then they lose in the national semifinals and they have a 14-1 season, it will be viewed as a massive disappointment. Not a failure. It's a good season.
Mm-hmm.
But Sark won't have got any further with Arch Manning than he got with Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
And people will remember that. And people will start to think, because 2027 is what it is. And we'll wrap up. I'll let you have the final thought. I don't think we have any super chats. If they don't win this season, knowing what 2027 is going to be, I think there just will be a concern that maybe things have peaked. That, you have windows that are open and sometimes they close. And if 2027 is a true rebuild, that's a lot to ask of everybody in the program to kind of build Humpty Dumpty back up again. And then let's go after another 4-year cycle. Now, coaches, maybe that's what they do. But in reality, we don't see coaches hang around long enough in places to see if that's what they do.
Yeah.
And coaches that don't ever get to the mountaintop ever and then have a little bit of a dip, those coaches have a hard time keeping their jobs. Jim Harbaugh's of the world and the Mike Tomlins of the world, if you've got a ring on your finger, you get treated a little bit different. If you don't, they say things about you like you can't win the big one. And then they just point to the fact that you've never won the big one. And a lot of times in the NFL, that's reason enough. It won't be at Texas. Sark's not under that kind of pressure, but it doesn't mean that those thoughts won't exist nonetheless.
My favorite, as I close, one of my favorite cheating stories was the thing I put in my column this on Sunday. The kid, for those who don't know, there's a young man who for the Super Bowl stood outside and camped out.
I am not mad at that young man.
And he had like a listening device and where he could like hear from a far distance, and then he had a timer. And he waited to hear them practice the Star Spangled Banner, right? The national anthem. And he timed it. And then he kept making sure he knew what the time was going to be. And then he went and placed the bet. And I think he took the less because he knew what the line was. He took the less and he nailed it. And I was like, wow.
So what's the problem?
There's no problem. There's
Oh,
no
I thought he was like they were like coming after him.
I think they're they're mad at him. I don't, some people call it an insider trader thing. I don't know.
That's what I remember reading was the insider trading part.
And I just like,
what you
sounds
mean
like a
insider trading? That man hustled his way. I am not mad.
He hopped on a plane, flew out there, and just camped out all day, just waiting to hear them practice.
I'm gonna let you guys know, Anwar and I and Alex and Cody and Jason participate in insider trading. We attempt to every year. Alex and Cody hear whispers about what guys are running in the 40-yard dash. And then we go to Prize Picks. It didn't help me last year, but it did 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. They weren't good last year.
I took it was a bloodbath.
They sucked last year. The year before, the year before that, they had everything. They nailed everything.
We had the insider trading. I'm not mad at it. No, that is not insider trading. That's just hustling your resources.
Yeah. All right. That's it. That's it
All
for
right.
me, man.
Guys, Rogue Shop is a sponsor. Look, when I say they're Texas home for, this was still the best little package that I got. That's Northern Lights, I think. Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Guys, let Richard and Charlotte take care of you. RogueShop.com. If you have any questions, they'll help you immediately in the chat. Use that promo code OrangeBloods, get your discount. Get the hookup today. Texas home for legal CBD, THC, and so much more. We couldn't do what we do without them. We love Rogue Shop, love them back. Go to the website today. For myself and Anwar Richardson, thanks for giving us a little bit of time on a holiday. Happy President's Day.
Is that what it is today?
I think so. You got a favorite president?
Oh, let's
Piece of media?
Is there? I mean, come on. Asking any black person who their favorite president is, I mean, that's pretty damn obvious.
Can I ask you a black person question?
Okay.
Did you see my Sam Jackson list?
No, I haven't yet. I haven't gotten.
Okay, so I did Sam Jackson. I'm just wondering, Sam Jackson may have the highest Q rating among white people other than Denzel.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that hates Sam. And I was just wondering, is that just universal?
Yeah, I think Sam. I mean, I like Sam. I think he's cool. I think it's cool.
All these years later, the totality of his career.
But Sam is kind of like Snoop, right? Where he's like a universal, everybody feels comfortable around him. He's
not a mascot, is he?
Snoop?
Snoop is a mascot.
He's a caricature of him at this moment.
Snoop goes to the Olympics and hangs out with Martha Stewart, and maybe even gets down with Martha Stewart, and the whole thing is he's Snoop. But when I came across Snoop, he was saying about murdering people.
Yeah, he has changed. He has, and it's okay to evolve.
He's Willie Nelson now. He's like Willie.
Yeah. He's just Snoop has become safe. He's become corporate. I get it. He wants to make money. Sam, Sam is the same way. The Capital One commercials, right? And him and Charles Barkley and stuff. He's evolved from that character because he was in early. Wasn't he in Coming to America when he robbed
McDowell's?
Yeah, so he was in
that performance may or may not have made my top 10.
Okay, well, see, for that would have made your top 10.
It did. It was number 10 on my list. It's how I was introduced to Sam Jackson. Is that particular role. And it's still a banger. 30 plus years later, Sam Jackson and that scene in the McDowell's where Eddie Murphy uses the broom to sweep him off. Oh, the whole thing is just, that's a 5-star.
Is that it? All right, so can I ask you a white person question?
Yes.
So then for you, for the most, was Pulp Fiction the thing that made Sam Jackson cool? In that community? Yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
Jules Winfield is a top 10 movie character of all time. That movie is regarded as one of the top films of all time, and Sam Jackson is there's a million standout performances in Pulp Fiction. Sam Jackson owns that movie.
Yes. Okay.
Owns it. And it's as good as Bruce Willis has ever been. It's good as Travolta's ever been. It's as good as a lot of people have ever been. He's just, you know what? I watched like 10 Sam Jackson movies last week that I hadn't seen before until last week. Not all of them good.
Well, which was the worst for you?
Chirac. I hated it. it. They tried to have him do the right thing part as the narrator, but instead, have you seen Chirac?
No, I didn't see that one.
The gist of the movie is like Chicago, a bunch of people are getting murdered. Like, I don't know if you've heard. And so what happens is the women of Chicago decide they're going to stop putting out for men to end gun violence. And then they do it all over the world, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me. Not because men stop getting laid, but just because the movie's nonsensical.
So just one more thing. I'm just kind of curious now as we talk about these kind of guys. Did Lawrence Fishburne ever hit Samuel Jackson level for you?
But so close.
Okay.
And you know what? Lawrence Fishburne turned down the Jules Winfield part in Pulp Fiction because he'd already done some parts like that and felt like he was getting typecast. That was going to go to Lawrence Fishburne. In fact, I think Tarantino said he wrote the part for Lawrence Fishburne.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. That's one of those things that roles that I'm sure there's an interview about, like, I turned down this role, ... Well,
and it works out. He ends up getting The Matrix as a byproduct of, like, you know what I mean? Fishburne ends up having a monster career. Was Samuel L. Jackson, final thought. I think in 2015, I think the record has been broke, but he was the top grossing actor in the history of film. All of the movies that he was in grossed more money than any other actor with all of his films.
Wow.
And you know how he gets to do it? In part, he was in 3 Star Wars movies, and he's been in like 10 MCUs. He gets Avengers Endgame, the Captain America movies. He's just stacking them up.
He's got versatility. He's got some versatility. That's for damn sure. I forgot about the Star Wars stuff.
He's always the Black Jedi.
Yeah, he is.
He took the role because he was like, wait a minute. There's going to be a Black Jedi? I have to be the Black Jedi.
He killed it.
I think it's his favorite thing in acting is that he emerged in the entire Star Wars trilogy as like, I got to be the Black Jedi. I don't know. Is there a Hispanic Jedi? Maybe there's like an Asian guy, right? Maybe there are more nationalities and races in this Jedi lordom that I know. But Sam got to be that guy because I know that's why he took the part. He made a big deal out of it when the movies came out. He was like, God damn right, I'm a Jedi.
There's like 10,000 people in those movies. I'm sure there's somebody who's Hispanic or Asian somewhere in there.
I bet Samuel L. Jackson would fight that note. Who? Tell me who? Uncredited actors do not count. All right, guys, we gotta go. Y'all have a great rest of your President's Day. Watch some Samuel L. Jackson today. There are worse things that you can do with your time. Just don't let it be Chirac. The movie's long. I didn't like it. There are better options. Watch Do the Right Thing. Guys, we'll talk to you soon.